that we emailed back and forth. When people ask you, Pastor, what's your email? I said, this is what you say. beehole@beeholemin.org. And he said, yeah. He said, yeah. And I said, I don't think you're listening to me. I don't think you hear me. I said, right now, I want you to forget how it's spelled. Forget about what it means and just listen to these words. Your email is beehole@beeholemin.org.
Buttholemin.org.
What? Like, no. And the phone goes dead. He's silent. And he comes back on the phone. Right? It's too funny, right? He comes back on the phone and he goes, I'm going to be an illustration for the rest of your life, aren't I? And I laughed and I said, here's the deal though. You've already been a joke in that community for a decade and a half. Let's change that.
Wow. Wow.
And here's what the process. Yeah, we end up getting into visual identity and a comprehensive brand guide with photo treatments and colors and fonts and textures. But you don't start there. You start with that message. And he had a message about, he wanted it to be more diverse, and he wanted that same holistic message his mom had, but he wanted to invite more people in, and just not to attend, but to be a part of it. And he kept using the word, I just want him to get in the mix. I just want a mixture of people from a mixture of backgrounds. And so we helped them relaunch as the Mixed Church. And they outgrew in the first year, they outgrew that facility. They still used it as an office. They started renting a school, and 200, 300, 400, 500. I don't know what they're no one knows how many people attend church anymore after post-COVID. Right. So I don't know what their current numbers are, but I know it's way bigger than 50. And they have it now. And so here's what you need is you do need to understand what they think about when they hear syllables, when they hear words, because that's what we're going to come against. So yeah, it has a great concept. It has something that we care about. Right. But if it doesn't make sense to our audience, then it would be like me preaching to a Chinese person in Chinese that doesn't know English. Like I don't know how to speak the language yet.
Right.
We learn the language of the people by listening. And then though, you do need you don't just need something fancy. You don't need a fancy new logo. You don't need a fancy new website. You need a creative, authentic expression of yourself with your audience in mind.
Wow.
That's the overlap. That's the win-win. Authentically, creatively, that's an expression of me. So what we say at ArtSpeak is we don't design for you. We don't design for you. We design as you. Again, that first step, though, is that triangle. Who are you? Right. Who are you speaking to? What's the message? Now we can design logos and colors and textures, websites, marketing campaigns, retarget ads, all the things. But really what it comes down to ultimately is a conversation in a relationship. How are we doing at building that conversation? How are we doing at building that relationship?
Wow. So how can we, like with your method, with Art Speaks Creative, how do we build our volunteer team? Because it's hard to keep leaders, to keep volunteers, because we live in a generation where everybody wants to get paid. And, we were in a very great conversation. I forgot with the person's name, but it was a church of 50 people, right? But I think they have like 100 and 50 people that are members of the church, or 30 people, something to that effect. It was on Next Wave. It was like 50 people. They only are a church of 50 members, but I think they were working with like 180 volunteers because of what they were doing actually in the community. And then this church with zero tithes, right? Zero tithes, ended up accomplishing a $17 million center. Do you remember that story, Jason?
Yeah, that Ray Hudson, Berkeley, California. I was in Ray's wedding, and Ray and I go way back. So
okay.
Phenomenal story happening there in Berkeley. I think empathy is a part of that. I think, and I think that is true for our people. Are we willing to serve? Right? I mean, it reminds me of what Jesus said: the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve.
But to serve, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've used that verse as church leaders to manipulate people to serve the church. And at times, I'm not saying always, but
right.
How can we, there's something very fulfilling about serving at church. So it can be an honor and a privilege to do so. And so it shouldn't be lorded over them, but it can be an opportunity. Like, here's what we're doing. I think when there's a lack of people and there's a lack of finance, there's probably not a lot of wins happening, right? Like money and people follow wins, right? Like if the Ravens have a winning season, there's just more people at the stadium, and there's just more. It got to cost you a little bit more to go watch them play. That's just how it happens.
That's how it goes.
So if you get on that downward spiral of it's not winning, and oh my gosh, my heart goes out to every pastor right now and everybody listening, because we have been through the heart. Like, get a win in this season, like it's just, I don't even know if I can get together. Like, I don't even know if we can play the game, let alone get a win. Right. So maybe I wonder. I don't think COVID necessarily like introduced anything. I think it just was a catalyst and an accelerator. I thought we as a church would be here having the conversations that we're having. I thought we would be having them like in 2040. But instead we're having them at the beginning, 2022. Online, decentralized. How do you asked a couple of good questions. How do you get more people serving? Well, you have to make it about them. If you're going to empathize, how do you make it about them? Here's one just practical hack. It's social media, and take pictures of people serving on a weekend and enjoying it, and then post those on a Sunday night. Because I remember when I was church planting, we would do that. We'd just dump a bunch of pictures from the weekend Sunday night and thank the volunteers and for serving. And those people, right, would make it their profile picture.
Wow.
Because, like one guy in particular, in our story, like he drove a cement truck during the day. That was his job. But you don't want to know what he wants all of his friends to know? Is that he's a drummer in a rock and worship band on the week. Like I'm not just a truck driver. Like, I can jam, like that's what so there was cool lights shining on his face and the cymbals are crashing. He's got a little bead of sweat and he's smiling. He's drumming for Jesus. That's what he wants people to know. So we would make that we would serve him. It was a serving of him. It can be a win-win. It was a win for us when he shares our pictures. Right. So I think at ArtSpeak, one of our core values is called gratitude is our operating system. So I think when you, if you really want to influence volunteers, you got to be grateful. I would highly recommend gratitude being a motivating device. It'll work even for the offering when we first rolled out online giving. And there's a lot to be said about recurring revenue and recurring gifts, right? I got up on the Sunday that we had launched it. We had launched it on a Thursday. We had recurring revenue. I'm pastoring a church. I got up and I said, here's how you can give today. I just want to say a big thank you to all of those who have set up recurring giving on our website. Probably the easiest and best way to give, but thank you for all of those who have already done that.
Wow.
When I said those words, there were only 2 people who had ever given recurring revenue online. Me and my associate pastor. But I was grateful that we had set that up. I said that same phrase for 4 weeks in a row. But 1 month later, we had 60% of our giving was recurring profiles. I never asked anyone to do it. I just thanked them for doing it.
Wow.
Best way.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that that's like this always this like Jedi mind trick.
Right,
People will
right.
see through that, but I also
Right.
think there's something to be said about being grateful and celebrating what people are doing,
Right,
celebrating the kids ministry, celebrating the, those that are serving, posting about it in the message, weaving it in. There's so many ways, to get people excited about knowing that they're feeling, again, when you acknowledge that you see them,
Right.
everybody wants to be known. They want to be seen. Right. And so if you acknowledge, hey, I see you, and we celebrate you.
Right.
If you can create an atmosphere where people are seen and celebrated, man, who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Right. And so for those leaders who want to see their churches thrive and expand and become because you are in that particular area, and it's for your community. So the whole basis of what we do as leaders is to get to know our community, right? And so what would you say to some pastor that said, because my daughter just texted me, right? And she said, Mom, I love him, right? She was like, I love him. I want to get with him. I want to talk with him. I'm really interested in what he's doing. She was like, I want to be able to do this for the church. So like, what is it that you would bring to somebody's ministry, even in teaching someone in their ministry, right? How to come along and learn what Art Speaks is doing. And, is that something that you do, first of all? And if you do, how would you help, a church, have somebody in that church take on what Art Speaks does? Yeah,
so there are a few resources I want to go ahead and give, and if you want to post them, or I can drop them on in the comments of this video later after we're done. Obviously, artspeakcreative.com. You can see all of our stuff. I also have my own website, jasonbowman.net. I'd love to connect. Here's a couple places on the ArtSpeak website. If you go to artspeakcreative.com/resources, we publish in there all the time. We're always posting. It's at least once a week. There's a new article, a new video, and really our goal when we create content is to give away everything we know. That is our goal. We want to we know how to do a few things. We want to give that away and teach you how to do those things. So that's those resources, and there's lots in there. The messaging conversation, if you go to artspeakcreative.com/branding, there's actually the first step of our messaging blueprint is a questionnaire. And there's some deep questions. We've had clients that hit time out and said, look, we need to go and do a retreat and answer these questions are deeper, because they thought they were getting a logo and some colors, and we were like asking them about their mission and their vision and their values. Who are you?
Right.
And they said, we want to answer this right. So these questions are deep. They're really good for a staff to go through to make sure, like, let's answer these. Whether you hired ArtSpeak or not, you can have those questions. And if you go to the artspeakcreative.com/branding, you can download that questionnaire. When you do that, if you follow, like, you're registering, you're signing up for our email, where we email out, hey, this is the resource that we're talking about this week. You'll be a part of that email list. And we'll also say during this year, I'm hoping in the next couple months, we're getting ready to launch a community for church creatives. And that's a broad brush. I don't actually design and I don't code, but I liken myself as a church creative. So we're talking. We're gonna be having a community, much like the church plant community that we're a part of. I would also recommend that community. If you're leading a church, you're leading a ministry in a hard place, then I highly recommend the community where Danette and I met, and that's nextwave.community.
Yes.
Nextwave.community. That'd be a good start. If you go, feel free to message me. I can post my email. I'll give you my cell phone. I don't care however we want to connect. I would love to,
Right.
I'd love to help. Yeah.
And the other exciting thing is, and I want you to share with